Well, a very good Sunday afternoon to you all. We're live in Les Sables d'Olonne with our Vendée English Live, which we broadcast every single day of this race. We're 2 weeks into the race, 14 days, and that means we've only got 60 days left to break the course record. The top news today, where the leaders are into this long-awaited low-pressure system. It really is a dream situation for them, and the longer you stay on the low, the faster and further you can go on it. So it's particularly good for Charlie Dallan. In the meantime, it looks like the fleet may split, of course, because of this low. They may be into two, possibly even into three. But in the meantime, Sam Goodchild is in fourth, Sam Davis in 10th, and Justine Metro is in 11th. And Charlie Dallan is pursuing the record between Les Sables d'Olonne and the Cape of Good Hope, which is 17 days, 22 hours. More likely because at the equator, there were 2 days behind the original record, so perhaps the 8 days and 15 hours record between the equator and the Cape of Good Hope is more likely to be broken. I say both of these records held by Alex Thompson on the 2016 race. And my guest today, home in Canada, is Scott Shawyer, skipper of the Be Water Positive programme. He's heading to the 2028 race. He was here for the start, and he's been running his programme for a couple of years. He has a great story because, of course, 4 years ago, it was just a little bit of a dream for him. We're going to catch Scott in just a few seconds, and we're also got our ever reliable, ever dependable Japanese translator waiting for Kojiro Shiraishi. We have Shota Kanda. Shota, how are you? We have Shota. Anyway, Scott, tell me, it's Sunday morning in Canada. Hopefully you've had pancakes and loads of maple syrup.
No pancakes and maple syrup for me, but I've had breakfast and up and ready to get at the day. It's still pretty early here, but it's turning out to be a nice day already.
And what was it like being at the start for you? I say you have this dream which started 4 years ago and which will come to fruition hopefully in another 4 years. How did you feel being at the start?
Yeah, it was an incredible experience, Andy. For anybody who's never been there, I've never seen so many people in my entire life. The energy was unbelievable, and you know, we got to watch the skippers, well, a few days before, go down and see the boats and see the crowds, and the venues were fantastic. But the day of the race, you know, seeing the skippers get on the boats and parade down the canal was really an experience I'll never forget. And yeah, I can't wait to be there in 4 years. It'll be unbelievable.
That's your story, because 4 years ago we were in the midst of COVID, the global pandemic, and you had no idea about the Vendée Globe.
Yeah, I mean, I had a bit of an idea of the Vendée Globe. I watched the 2020 edition, but yeah, we were in COVID and literally in lockdown here in Canada. And I've got a lake in the backyard and a ski hill in the front yard in the town we live in, and I hadn't been outside in weeks. And I was, trying to raise money for my company to do some expansion, and on Zoom calls for 14 hours a day. And I contrasting that, I saw these skippers walking down the dock, take their masks off and cast off to sail around the world. And I thought, wow, I'm really missing something here by being chained to this desk. So started to look into it and, learned about Canada's history in the race and decided that it's something that I wanted to do and really, try to be the first Canadian to finish this race in 2028.
And what have you done so far for those who have perhaps not been watching your program so far? You're in pretty good shape. You've done a number of transatlantics.
Yeah, I've done a few transatlantics. Did the New York Vendée race just this past June, which was fantastic. That was my first solo transatlantic. I've got this boat here, and I'm in the process of buying another boat that's a foiling boat for the next 4 years. So, really looking forward to the Ocean Race Europe coming up this next year and all the races beyond.
So you stepped up the program from your original ambitions.
It's moving in that direction. Yes, it's a bit daunting, I have to say, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into a foiling boat. In New York Vendée race, I really saw how much of a difference having the foils makes, and just how when you're lined up beside them and the wind's right, they just take off. You don't stand a chance in a foiling boat.
And have you bought a boat yet? Are we allowed to know which boat you're after, or is it?
The ink is not dry, so no, I can't say anything just yet. But we'll be announcing something in the coming weeks.
But you were shopping here, in essence, when you were here at the start.
We were indeed shopping at the start, and just, it was great to look at all the different boats and see the differences between them and start to understand why those differences exist. So it was a great, information session as well as a shopping trip for sure.
And you're working with Nick Maloney, who we had on the show a few days ago. What does Nick bring to the program?
Yeah, Nick's amazing. I mean, Nick's been, a lifelong sailor and has been in sail tried the Vendée, 15 years ago or so, and has been in this class and other classes. So he brings just the wealth of knowledge on program management, sponsorship, campaigning, sailing. Really, he's a great people manager, a great communicator, and he's fantastic to work with. So he's a great addition to the team.
So where does your program go next then? What's the next steps?
Next steps is acquiring this boat and getting it the way that we want it. I mean, every boat comes in a certain way, and there are always customizations that you want to make. I'm not a relatively tall person. I'm 6'3", and 220 pounds, and so some of these boats are made for smaller people. So there's a lot of ergonomics to think about. So it's getting the boat ready and really prepped for the Ocean Race Europe coming up, which is the next major race for us on the calendar.
That sounds exciting. Anyway, I think we've got Shota, and hopefully we've also got Kojiro Shiraishi, our Japanese skipper, on his third Vendée Globe. Koji, how are you? Shota, how are you?
白石さんいかがでしょうか。
Just wait and see how the connection goes. Hey, Koji.
白石さん取れますか。いかがでしょうか。どう
Oh,
ぞ。
there we go. Happy smiling face. Yeah.
走れてますよ。どうぞ。
How's Koji?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm finally moving forward.
You had some tough doldrums.
かなり複雑なドルドラムスでしたね。どうぞ。
はい。僕あんまりうまくいきませんでした。スコールとスコールの間に入ってね、なかなかうまく抜けることができませんでした。どうぞ。
Yeah, I was unlucky. I got caught between two squalls and I couldn't move a bit, but now I'm out of the doldrums, so I'm feeling better.
And how was it going across the equator? And how many times have you been across now, Koji?
で赤道を通過して、いかがでしたでしょうか。どうぞ。
はい。赤道を通過していかがでしたかという質問だと思うんですが、無事に通過できてよかったです。船に大きなダメージなく、体も大丈夫です。もう 10回目以上かな。かなり多く赤道を通過しましたけども、いい状態で、赤道スタートは通過できたんだと思います。どうぞ。
Yeah. So I'm lucky. The boat doesn't have any damages. I'm feeling well. I think it's my 10th or I forgot how many equator I've crossed, but yeah, the boat and the skipper is doing well on board.
And you had some sake when you crossed the equator.
赤道で、お酒を、飲まれたようですが、いかがでしたでしょうか。どうぞ。
赤道でお酒をなんとかだと思うんですけども、いつもの恒例のスポンサーの八海山のお酒をお道を、海とかどうぞ。
Yeah, it's the Hakkai-san, which is one of my sponsor, who provided me with some sake, and this is a usual thing I do when I celebrate on my races.
And we've got Scott Shawyer with us. Scott, would you like to connect with Koji?
Yeah, hi Koji. Koji and I actually got a great photo of one another in the middle of the Atlantic on the New York Vendée race. We crossed each other, and it was great to see him and break the solitude of being out there for already a week alone by the time we crossed each other. But my question for Koji is, I struggle with finding food that I like, and I get sick of food really quickly. Is there anything from the Japanese cuisine that he finds fantastic and something that he could recommend?
カナダのスキッパーのスコットさんからの質問です。結構船の食事にすぐ飽きるようなんですけど、日本の食事で、白石さん、美味しい食事などありますでしょうか。どうぞ。
はい、美味しいお食事があるかということは、日本はね、そんな飽きないですよ。いろんな種類とか、いろんなレトルトがとても発達しているので、結構飽きずにね、食べられます。やっぱりね、お米が一番美味しいです。どうぞ。
Yeah, the Japanese food is actually pretty good. We have lots of wet food, curry, and of course the rice is very very good. But we'll make you try some one day.
Sounds
Sounds
good.
great.
Hey, Koji, I think you first sailed around the world in 1993, believe it or not. Sargass, the weed, is becoming an increasing problem.
で、白井さん、世界一周初めてやってから、1993年の、レースからですけど、どんどんサルガッソが多くなっていると動画で言われていました。その件いかがでしょうか。どうぞ。
はい、4年前はすごく多かったんですが、今年はね、そうでもなかったです。今年はそんな多くなくて、すんなり通過できました。どうぞ。
Actually, I was lucky. I was feeling lucky this year. 4 years ago, it was really bad for me, but this year, compared to 4 years ago, it wasn't too bad.
And what's ahead for weather for Koji?
そして、これからの、天気、風などなど、どういうふうに進んでいく予定ですか。どうぞ。
はい、これからね、今いい風受けてるので、このまましばらく南に行ってから、ケープタウンの方にね、水を変えたいと思います。どうぞ。
Yeah, I have good wind at the moment, so I'll keep on. I try to get this wind until I get to Cape Town, and then we'll be in the Southern Ocean.
And Koji, do you have any advice for Scott Shawyer, who's setting out for the Vendée next time?
そして、カナダのスキッパーのスコットさんに、次のバンデグローブ目指しているようですが、何かアドバイスなどあったりしますでしょうか。どうぞ。
はい、ハロースコット、今回ね、とても残念でした。でもね、バンデグローブはどこにも行きませんので、また4年間チャレンジしてください。きっとね、いつか出れる日が来ますので、諦めないでチャレンジしてくださいね。応援してますよ。
Yeah, it's the Vendée Globe will never go away. It will always be coming every 4 years. So just to never give up, believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and you'll be amongst us in the next Vendée also.
So there you go, Scott.
Great, thank you, Koji. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Anyway,
Have a great race.
Have a great race indeed, Koji. We'll join you in a few days. Have a great Sunday and sail fast, sail safe.
はい、白石さん、続けて、頑張ってください。セールファースト、セールセーフでお願いします。どうぞ。
はい、ありがとう。Thank you very much. Andrew, thank you very much, Scott. はい。See you.
There we go then, Kojiro Shiraishi on DMG Global 1 in 30th place, but going well and having a great race so far. Scott, your thoughts on Koji as a competitor? He's quite a character, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, he can sail fast for sure. There were times in the New York Vendée race where I'm thinking closer to the end where we both got on the same line of wind and he was gone. So yeah, he's a great sailor. He's been, as you said, sailing around the world since 1993, which is 30 years. That's a long time. So.
It's a long time. You kind of overlooked the miles that he's done. Anyway, let's look at the weather situation as of today. Let's say 14 days into the race. This is the weather looking at this low pressure system. Well, we've been talking about this, the low pressure system coming off the Brazilian coast. It's quite far to the north in terms of where the lows are generally generated. And so that's giving a very nice angle all the way down to the South African tip of South Africa. And that's potentially record speeds. But we're looking particularly at the situation just now. The low is here, and these were the leaders this morning coming down towards that. And you can see the low forming here. Now then, looking in a little bit more detail in the animation, you can see this low here. It's like a wave, and the boats which are at the front of the wave can ride it for longest. The boats who are coming in at the back of the wave then will struggle to stay on for quite as long. So the situation is very, very good for Charlie Dallin and the boats at the front. They should be able to ride it all the way down to the Southern Ocean, and good situation. In terms of records, potentially, Alex Thompson's record between the equator and the Cape of Good Hope, perhaps under threat, and possibly the 24-hour record as well. But you're just seeing how this low evolves, and we're coming down here with it. The leading second boat is having to jibe a couple of times, and a very straight, nice angle for Charlie Dallin. All good. Indeed, it is all good for Charlie Dallin. Scott, I believe you're becoming a little bit of a weather geek.
I am following it in a lot of detail, that's for sure.
But you've been working hard on your weather, I believe.
I have, yeah. It's it's a lot to learn, obviously, and it's kind of fun following them now because everything's upside down to what I've normally been doing for the campaign so far. Everything in the northern hemisphere, and now we're in the southern hemisphere. So it's been neat to kind of turn my computer upside down and remind myself that I do know what's going on. It's just a bit backwards. So.
And what have you learned so far that you feel is useful or practical looking ahead?
Well, I've learned, it's been interesting using the routing software. I use a package called the Drain. I also use Expedition at times, and so I'm routing the competitors a few times a day, and finding that by and large the routings are pretty solid. I'm then kind of comparing that to what I would say are the normal conditions and trying to find where risk is and seeing how they deal with that. If the routing's saying go to this place, but that normal weather would take you to this place, how do you do that? And I'm actually seeing them making decisions similar to what I'm making out at desk. Now, I don't, they're sailing different conditions, so you never really know what they're seeing out there. But I'm not as far off as I thought I might be, so that's refreshing.
Fantastic. Maybe we'll have you back at some point and you can do some weather analysis in the next few weeks. But let's have a look at Sam Goodchild. Sam, third or fourth this morning, neck and neck with Johan Richomme. And Sam, he's on good form.
Looking fast, yes. It's not comfortable, but at the moment it's going okay, yeah.
How hard is it to keep up with your boat in these conditions? Is your boat good for these conditions?
Until 5 or 6 hours ago, it was actually quite flat water and it was okay. And now in the last few hours, the sea state's kind of deteriorated a bit, and it's getting more and more hard to keep up, or to keep the boat going anyway. The boat likes to nosedive a lot, and so we kept taking big surfs down waves and then crashing into the back of the wave in front of us, like that one.
And tell us about connecting with this low pressure, this depression. What's the strategy there? Is it a rich get richer situation with Charlie, or what's your view?
It's a bit early to tell, but for sure it's going to be a rich get richer situation in the short term, or the medium term anyway. The longer you can stay ahead of this depression, the longer you're going to have winds in the favourable direction, not have to start jibing. So, it's definitely going to help. what happens after that is a whole different question. But yeah, I mean, in the medium term, it is a case of the faster you go, the longer you stay with the depression, the longer you keep the right wind direction, and the further down the track you're going to go before you have to start diving.
And we're 2 weeks in today. How do you feel?
Yeah, we're 2 weeks in, so it's the longest time I've been at sea on my own by a few days. Yeah, so far I'm pretty happy, pretty comfortable. It's not the solidarity, if you like, isn't something that I'm struggling with. And I've had a good race, which helps as well. I mean, the new bit of today is really just trying to find this right balance of how hard you push. Until now, the wind's been fairly light and the sea's fairly flat, so you just push as hard as you can. You don't take much risk on a boat. Now I'm kind of in the pack of new boats that are good at going through sea state, and I just need to make sure I don't get too greedy and too carried away trying to keep up with them, and know how hard I can push when and when I need to throttle back. Really.
In that context, Sam, did you manage to catch up with the Grand Prix?
The Grand Prix, I had a quick look at the results. Yeah, I saw that it was two Brits first and second, so that's good, and that Max Verstappen's world champion.
That's your inspiration then?
That's my inspiration. Two Brits first and second. Yeah, exactly. So no, it's good to keep it. And there's a rugby match this evening. I don't know how I'm going to be able to follow that, but I'll keep an eye on the result at least.
So Sam Goodchild there, at least managing to keep up with the F1 results. He's a big F1 fan. And Scott, your thoughts on Sam's race? It's been pretty inspirational as well, isn't it?
Yeah, Sam's been having a fantastic race. I mean, obviously he's been pushing hard from the start to end up, leading for such a long period of time. And that, those were questions I had for him: is how's the boat and how's he doing? And it sounds like they're both doing well given the conditions. And I think what he was saying about them getting into some rougher wave systems now, and his type of boat being one that is a little bit flatter and may tend to nosedive a little bit, so he's got to take it a little bit easy. So it'll be interesting to see how the next few days and how it goes for him getting into the Southern Ocean.
Well, fingers crossed for Sam Goodchild over the next few days. But let's look at the ranking at midday today. So the standings at midday, 2 weeks into this 10th edition of the Vendée Globe. Well, Charlie Dallin out in front, about 36 miles ahead of Thomas Rion. Johan Richomme and Sam Goodchild very even. As we heard Sam just saying, conditions getting a little bit more difficult for his boat as the seas build. Correspondingly, Johan Richomme's boat coming more into its own as the sea builds. Sebastian Simon in the 5th, Jeremy Bayou 6th, Nico Lundvin 7th, and Yannick Bestaven in 8th. He was 6th earlier on, but really nothing much in between 6th and 8th just now. Only a few miles in it, and it's a speed race. Sam Davis in 10th, Justine Metro in 11th. There's about 20 miles between the two girls, between Sam Davis and Justine Metro. Clarice Kramer a little bit further behind as well, but all three girls having a great race just now. Boris Herrmann in the 13th, Pip Pear in 15th. Isabel Joschke in 19th, Conrad Coleman 23rd. And of the internationals, Alan Rura 26th, Giancarlo Padotti 27th, Kojiro Shiraishi in 30th, and the other internationals further down the table. Ollie Heer, who did that penalty, in 36th, Denny van Veenberg 37th, and Shabby Szabolcs Weöres, who we spoke to today. Content, but going relatively slowly at the moment in relatively light breezes just to the north and west of the Cabo Verde Islands. And indeed, this is Shabby this morning, this Sunday morning, relatively content. And he says it is what it is.
I'm okay, not the best, but I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm still alive, sailing in very calm, nice weather. 10, 12 knots of wind, downwind, 130, 140 true wind angle. Try to go further south to the doldrums and passing the equator, where what almost everybody passed already. So I have 1,000 miles deficit from the end of the fleet, more than 2,000 from the front. So I'm not super happy, but this is how it is. The forecast is the same. I have 10, 12 gusts maximum, 14, 15, a few gusts. And then, yeah, it's coming from northeast easterly wind. I still have to jibe a lot to go around the citizen zone, around Azores, and then after that I can focus to go further south. I'm motivated, but it's very hard, you know, when you are alone and then you're doing your own pace. You have no one around you who you can compare, because it's difficult to find the race rhythm. For sure, I'm looking forward. So if I see long term, I'm always telling yes, it's a very, very long race. We're still at the beginning, but you know, so Andy, that rich are getting richer. So if they get into a better system sooner in the south, so but we will see. I still do my best. I cannot do anything else than do my best. It's a really pleasure now. It's really flat sea, calm, and then I'm doing 10 knots, 11 sometimes. So it's a really pleasure sailing.
So since he started his dream 4 years ago, or just less than 4 years ago, Shabby's maxim has always been step by step, take it step by step, and I'm sure he's a pretty tough guy and he's going to be okay. Just finishing off with Scott Shawyer, tell us a little bit about your Be Water Positive programme. What's that all about?
Yeah, Be Water Positive is really, a call to action to get people to really think about how they treat our watershed, which is really the water that we use and what we do with it. And the idea is that, with some thought and some use of some technology, you can actually contribute more clean water to the environment than we use. And there are a lot of things that we do, largely at a municipal level, where we're taking water from a treatment plant, getting it to a certain level of treatment and dumping it into the ocean, where we could be recycling it and getting it to a much higher level that's to a drinking water standard and reusing it, versus sending it to the ocean, pumping ocean water back in, desalinating and treating. And, so there's a lot to it. And, the partners we have on board are pretty passionate about it. And so we're here to help educate and promote the notion of doing more for the watershed than we're taking. So that's really what it's about.
Well, Scott, we've got something like 7 or 8 weeks left of this race. Every Friday we're focusing on a sustainability issue, so maybe you join us again at that some stage and talk about that in more detail. But it's been a real pleasure having you on board with us. Have a great day there in Canada. And so that's the end of
Thanks, Andy. It's been a pleasure.
That's the end of our show here in Les Sables d'Olonne this Sunday. Tomorrow we're back at the same time, the same place, with a new father. Will Harris will be joining us. Dee Kafari will be on the plateau with me as well. And we'll see you then. So 13:30 UTC, 14:30 here in France.